All right, so we are back. I'm back at home, and this is the most excited I have been about influencer boxing in a very long time. Following up on a video we did a couple of days ago where I told you Misfits 18 had the potentially could have saved influencer boxing, and I said that, yes, because it was a great show, but most importantly because we have the matchup we have wanted for 4 years to 5 years in the making. And Nissan Give, Slim. This is a blockbuster matchup. And we got details we got to go over. Early breakdown. Slim versus Gib. It's finally happening. And what happens here? Well, I got some thoughts. So, finally, it feels so good after all this time to say, breakdown, let's go. All right, so like I said, Slim versus Gib. This was the fight we all wanted. And I, again, have a good editor in Leo who did predict these things with the announcement. The way it was unveiled, W top notch. We all want to see it. And so we finally have it. Let's go through the immediate details. Slim undefeated, 7 wins, 5 wins by stoppage across all his travels in the influencer boxing scene. Gib, 6 wins, 1 loss, notable loss to Jake Paul. We'll get back to that in a second. 3 KOs, and obviously his 1 loss was by stoppage. So on paper, this is probably the most competitive, most fan favorite matchup we could have outside of KSI versus Jake Paul. That's just the reality of the situation. So this is probably the biggest fight we can make in influencer boxing right now. I mean, realistically. And I say that because Slim has gone on a tear since he started boxing. Again, he's undefeated and has built up a Misfits fan base, holds one of their belts, although, again, I'm not super excitable about the belts. I think you guys know this by now. I don't really care about it. Gib, on the other hand, he posted the meme today on Twitter, so I'll just let you guys look at it. He's essentially told everybody what it is. He is a promotion killer. I mean, in every sense of the word. He went to Social Gloves, beat Austin McBroom, that promotion shut down. Kingpin, I don't know if this is necessarily Gib's fault for these two, because you could also look at this a different way. Like, when Gib rocks up, the promotion pays him so much money, they can't survive and continue. By the way, Kingpin still owes me $35,000. This one, we didn't actually get to see the end of. It was supposed to be Gib and Kenny in the final. We didn't get to see that. Regardless, that promotion's dead. Now he's knocking on the door of Misfits with his freaking winning gloves on. Look at the shape of my man. Good Lord, he is in ridiculous shape. So we know the allure of Gib. And like I said, Slim, he's the shit man, aka the hit man. You know, that's probably not the way he says it. That kind of made me sound like I was saying that Slim is a piece of shit. He is not. That's my guy. This is going to be tough for me to comment on because I like both guys. Whatever. It is what it is. Let's get to the actual X's and O's here. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you who I think is favored in each category of boxing or of what we can break down here, right? So let's start with the things that really are influencer boxing thing. Who's the A side here? Well, let's be honest. I think that in the influencer scene, Gib still has a bigger name than Slim. Regardless of the Misfits belt and everything else, Gib does bring a certain level of aura that comes with him fighting. And whether you can translate that to actual people watching the events, for Kingpin, we didn't have the best viewership. Let's be honest. It was a lot around Whindersson Nunes in the first event. In the second one, there was people there, once again, a lot for Whindersson. And Ireland showed up regardless, but Gib still has some pull here. He still creates a spark when he comes back to the scene. And it's not just because he's gone, it's because Gib is still Gib. He's still the big Gibba. If you go on his Twitter page, it's still the picture of him being robbed by the ISKA and having to, print a correction of his fight with look at Taylor Holder's face. It was crazy, but that's still the thing that at least Gib, to us, is known for most. And that's a 280,000 like tweet from Gib there. So that's absolutely insane. And I know that Slim has gotten a lot of traction through influencer boxing. He's gotten recognized by the likes of Kevin Durant on his Instagram and all this stuff. I just think it's very simple that Gib is the bigger name here, even though Slim is also a big name in this scene. Slim's not going to like that. And I hope he understands what I mean. Gib his name carries a certain weight. When he's in the scene, it's always more eyes on. But that's more the influencery side, right? Let's talk about the matchup itself. Let's talk about the X's and O's, the Jimmies and Joes, okay? Let's start with where I'm going to give Slim an advantage here. And that, at least on paper, is going to be the power, the difference and what Gib brings and what Slim brings. Now, people are going to immediately pump the brakes here and act like I'm speaking out of my ass, but trust me, my 2 cheeks are in the chair, and these 2 cheeks are speaking to you. Full mouth, pause. I think Slim, at least on paper, has a bit of a power advantage, specifically power advantage here. Why? Not just because he's 7-0 with 5 KO. Not just because some of those stoppages have been bigger guys, but because there is a consistent level of stoppages with Slim, regardless who it is. Now, granted, his strength of schedule, and we'll talk about that in just a bit, may not produce some of the greatest influencer boxers in the scene, but he still had to go in and win those fights, and he did so by TKO. NNA Productions TKO. This W.A.D.E guy knocked him flat out cold. Temper out cold. Ryan Taylor won by decision, but dropped a 190-plus pound Ryan Taylor. Do not forget that. And he did it off his back foot. Hurt Tom's-Eddie multiple times. Did not drop Tom, at least not from what I remember. You guys can correct me in the comments. And then follows it up with the Salt Papi win, which was the crowning moment. And I think his best win by far, with a stoppage TKO victory over Salt Papi when Papi had never been stopped. In fact, Papi was the one doing the stopping. Sure, he came off the loss to Anthony Taylor. I think now we can look back on that loss and say, well, so does everybody else not named Idris Virgo. They all lose to Anthony Taylor. So with that in mind, like I said, the bigger weight class, Slim's a natural 165. He's knocking out guys in the mid-170s up to 180, 190. And yes, again, they may not have been the most experienced guys in the scene, but strictly one punch or even combination power, I think I'm going to have to lean to Slim here. Again, just on paper doesn't mean it's the actual reality of the situation. And what I mean by that is that it doesn't mean Gib doesn't have power. And as he's gotten, again, closer to his weight, that stoppage rate has gone up. But for now, like I said, we're leaning Slim. Now, let's go strategy. Let's go technique. Let's go boxing X's and O's. I think that if we're talking about a technical boxer, both guys bring a lot to the table. I think Slim is very slept on as a technical boxer. I think his technique is a little bit sometimes thrown out the window because he wants to be a dog in there and start sitting down in the pocket and trading. I think Gib had almost no technique in the beginning of his career, where he was just walking through punches and using, we'll get to in a second, his cardio to really overwhelm guys like Max Plays and Jay Swingler. But I think I'm going to go Gib here. I think Gib has evolved his boxing in a way that's more so tailored to a technical boxing match now than he ever showed to begin his career, and to the point now where he is winning fights based on his ability to be technical, based on his ability to remain a very composed and strategic striker. Whereas Slim is, in his own way, doing that, will also mix it up as a form of strategy, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's worse, but it doesn't also mean he's as technical in firefights. You remember, he probably got hit a little too much in the Tom's-Eddie fight for his own liking. Ryan Taylor didn't really hit him with anything that hurt him, but remained in that fight because Slim did want to sit down on big-time punches and really try to slug it out and get him out of there. Big guy, I understand that. But even in the Salt Papi fight, early in that fight, there is a strategy to, maybe absorbing some shots or being in the fight to see what Salt Papi is bringing him so that he can either gas him out or adjust to it later in the fight. But the technical ability showed up later in that fight for Slim, in my opinion, where he was able to roll with punches and fire back, where he was using his eyes to be able to counter Salt Papi as Papi walked forward with lack of technique. That was where Slim won that fight. His technique did come through there, but it was, again, not as prevalent throughout the fight. While he is reading and trying to react and do things to again, get Salt Papi to commit, he showed the technique later on that he absolutely has. But sometimes he'll get away from it in lieu of, let's sit down and scrap and find out what happens, which is why I go technique and, again, a bit of discipline. Maybe that's the word instead of technique, but discipline with that technical ability to remain that way. I'm going to go get defense. This one, I want to call a push, because while Slim has been hit, inconsistently by guys like Ryan Taylor and Tom's-Eddie, Temper didn't really touch him very much. Salt Papi did consistently hit him throughout their fight. Didn't really hurt him, though, and I don't know if that's more on the basis of chin or just the ability to take punches that maybe you give Slim the nod there, but he has been hit. He's shown some holes in his defense, and so has Gib, right? Gib's been dropped multiple times. In the Jake fight and the Austin McBroom fight, he has been hurt and dropped and stopped. And both guys have gotten better, but if we're talking about just who's better defensively, I think we give a little bit of a push here, because both guys will get hit and find themselves in positions that are not advantageous for them. Slim will obviously look to clinch in those positions. Gib will look to circle out. Regardless, both guys have their abilities, they have their skills, but they also, again, will get hit. We'll call that one a push. And while, again, I lean towards Slim with a power advantage, one, because again, the ability for him to put people down, even if they don't stay down, he's dropped almost everyone he's ever fought. And Gib has been dropped in the past multiple times. I'm sticking with Slim there, but the other side of that ability is the trade-off to power, and that is your cardio. Yes, the ability to be technical, be fast, be powerful late into fights. And this immediately goes toward a Nissan Gib, even though Slim is sneaky powerful late in the fights, because again, all the way into the fourth round is where Slim woke up a little bit versus Salt Poppy. When Salt Poppy started to get a little lax and maybe a little bit more tired, Slim was the one that found that extra gear. But it goes without saying that we've seen Slim struggle. Guys were heavier, and we understand that, but we've seen him struggle with guys like Zanetti, with guys like Ryan Taylor, with his gas tank. He's even admitted it, and he's worked on it, or he's tried to, and we're going to see how the improvements look there. But there's one guy you don't question his gas tank. You don't question his cardio. You don't question if he's going to be switched on late into fights, and that's a Nissan Gib. From everything you will hear from Leon Wills himself, who is his strength and conditioning coach, to Vidal Riley, to just watching him perform from the moment Gib decided to box, one thing was evident: he is a cardio machine. And while I talked about Slim keeping his power late into fights, Gib does the same, especially lately. You're talking about round 4 stoppage of Austin McBroom, where he was tagging him and putting him down left and right. I think he put him out 5 times in their fight. Hit Jarvis with some of the best combos he had late in the fight, where Jarvis started to taper off a little bit, started to get a little less technical, and Gib pushing on that gas pedal really showed the difference between the two as the fight went on. He himself even said, Jarvis is me from a couple of years ago. I've just mastered this game a little more. It's true. And in the Austin McBroom rematch, both of those fights were scheduled for 6 rounds. The reason I bring up cardio is because we have now found out this is an 8-round fight.
I'm telling you, 8 3-minute rounds. Our first 8-round fight in Misfits.
And when can we see it, ma'ams?
You're going to see it very soon. The announcement's coming. Supercard, baby.
They are doing 8 3-minute rounds, which is the first on Misfits, and surprising that Slim and Gib have that. Again, if we're talking cardio, if we're talking longevity, it feels like this has one answer and one answer only. It's a Nissan Gib. Not that Slim can't carry his power, not that he won't carry his power, but as the fight goes on, Slim does tend to be a bit more sloppy, or at least has in the past. Again, in the Salt Poppy fight, he proved to be the one that held his power, held his technique. But that was only in the 4th round. We're talking about 4 more rounds after that. We'll see, but I think it's clear right now that a Nissan Gib takes that category, and probably the most disparity of categories. This is the one where Gib just runs away with it. Now let's talk about strength of schedule, aka who have you fought? And this one again is very subjective, at least because of the names on the resume and also the way the fights went. Gib fought Max Plays, Slim fought Fuzi. I'm going to call this a wash, even though Fuzi might be the worst influencer boxer, or one of them we've ever seen. I'm not sure that Max Plays was much better. Second opponent, Jay Swingler, Slim's second opponent, NNA Productions. Yeah, this one again, we have a massive weight disparity for Slim on NNA Productions, and I think he stopped him in like a couple of seconds. And for Gib, this Jay Swingler, while it's not the Jay Swingler we see now, those are 2 different guys, but that win does age very well. And I don't know how we weigh that in the scale of like, oh, opponents were this difficult. But that was a dogfight. Went to decision. I think this is the better win. So right now you'd have Gib up 1-0. And then we have their third fight, which we all know. Gib fought Jake Paul. That was a massive fight, obviously, for influencer boxing. One of the better builds to a fight in influencer boxing. Obviously, we know what happened in the fight. Jake ran away with it fairly quickly. And Slim fought Abby Dan, who, again, I don't know if he's fought since. So, yeah, I don't know what that was or what happened there, but Slim knocked this guy out pretty clean, and obviously Gib lost. That one's got to go to Slim, even though Jake is considered, at least by me, to be the best of the influencer boxing products right now. That loss was still so devastating that I don't think a loss to Jake is better because of the way Gib lost. 3 knockdowns very quickly, almost got no offense off, got, beat up pretty bad. I don't think you can put that ahead of a win. So this would even things up through 3 fights. Then Slim fights Temper on 2 weeks' notice and knocks him out. Gib fights Taylor Holder and goes to a decision, but dominates that fight pretty clearly. This one's interesting. What do you value more? Gib with a decision over 5 rounds with Taylor Holder, who, by the way, at the time was considered by a lot of people, myself including, one of the people that could be next up in the influencer boxing scene. Looked the part with all the sparring footage you had seen, the mitt work, everything, the technique, the skill was all there, and Gib made him look like he had never really boxed. On the other side, Temper had a win. I mean, yes, he had lost and then they had given it back to him, but we all knew that Temper had beaten Kenny, and Slim walked in there and knocked him out. That was a very impressive win for Slim. It was a very impressive win for Gib. Ooh, I don't know what I value more there. They were both on big events. Social Gloves first event, massive crowd. But Slim on Misfits won, the first card on Misfits. This one might have to be another push, man, because the knockout itself I favor more, but Gib did dominate Taylor Holder after almost everyone thought Taylor Holder was going to come into that fight and be the favorite. Ooh, I think I'm going to lean Slim there just because, again, of the knockout. But then again, temper has been knocked out since by KSI and Josh Bruckner in around the same fashion. It's tough because after that, Taylor Holder got a win. So maybe you lean toward Gib. I don't know, man. I don't know. So then you had Gib fighting Austin McBroom. And this is after Austin McBroom had a win under his belt and looked the part, you know, fighting Southpaw, had stopped Bryce Hall in the main event. There was a lot of build around this Austin McBroom and Gib fight. A lot of people had picked Austin McBroom to beat Gib. Because of the athleticism, Gib's slow, he don't have no power. That was the narrative, and Gib went out there and, yes, got knocked down early, then turned around and whipped Austin McBroom's ass over and over, dropping him like a bad habit 4 or 5 times, whatever it was. 4, 5 drops of Austin. And then you had Slim, who went to a decision with Ryan Taylor, who had lost to DK Money because he headbutted him in the first round. He had drew with Anthony Taylor, even though I don't think anyone that watched that fight thought it was a draw. And then he got to Slim. And Ryan Taylor is a tough dude. Slim was not able to stop him. The fight wasn't close at all, and Slim did drop him once. But I think the more impressive win clearly here is Gib's win over Austin McBroom. Even if, again, you don't rate Austin McBroom or you don't think that he was as good as we thought he was then, he was certainly better as a boxer than Ryan Taylor was. And again, with that being said, it has to be that Gib has the better win there. So then we move on to their 6th fight, Tom Zanetti and Austin McBroom. Now again, this is a rematch in which Austin McBroom was coming off a loss to Gib, and Slim was fighting Tom Zanetti in his debut. This was, again, a fight that I figured Slim would win. Tom Zanetti, a far bigger guy than Slim was, and I think that needs to be taken into account. And yes, we found out after this that Tom Zanetti would go on to lose to Jarvis as well, which doesn't make this win look as good. And for Austin McBroom, he hasn't fought since Gib beat him the second time, so now he's 1-2. But Gib did stop Austin McBroom, again, who is around his weight. And Austin, you know, hurt his ankle in some way. If I remember back, something happened weird in that fight, whereas Tom Zanetti was tough as nails, and Slim was not able to stop him. Austin McBroom is probably the better win here, just based on the fact that Tom Zanetti's not won a fight, even though I think Tom Zanetti could beat other guys in this scene, and Gib was facing the same guy he had already beaten. I think we may have to push that one too. And I know it's going to sound crazy, but this was McBroom off a loss to Gib after he had been brutally beaten by Gib. And the rematch was, you know, something we all wanted just because the storyline was there and King Ben had the random draw. But this Austin McBroom had just gotten beat by Gib not even a year before that. So I think this is, again, it was an impressive win for Gib to do it again, but I still think we may have to go push there, which gives us to our final opponent with Gib in the 1-win column advantage to me so far. Gib coming off the win versus Jarvis in the Kingpin semifinals. This was a dominant performance. Gib taught Jarvis a little bit of a boxing lesson that night, and that was the hit and don't be hit style. There was technique, there was power, there was skill, there was defense, there was footwork. Gib had it all. And as a boxing performance goes, he was very clean, he was very slick. I think Jarvis landed a couple big punches in the first round, and after that got almost completely shut down. So super impressive win. But Slim beat Salt Poppy. And to me, as it sits right now, there's no offense to anybody, I do think, even regardless of the fact that Slim was probably down early in the fight, the fact that he was able to beat Salt Poppy, yes, Poppy was coming off a loss to Anthony Taylor, but again, in this scene, if you're an influencer and you're fighting Anthony Taylor, you lose. We've seen that. To me, that's a more impressive win. Not only on paper, but the way that Slim did it. He stopped Salt Poppy when he didn't look like he could be stopped. That right there, to me, is the best win, honestly, of both guys' careers. That's the best win. Not the best performance, it's the best win. So when we come down to it, I say all this and talk about strength of schedule to also give it a push, meaning I can't really weigh out anyone's schedule being more difficult than the other. I think both guys have had difficult fights and had big time wins. So what does that mean, Wade? You've yapped now for about 30 minutes. What does it all mean? It means that this is one of the most even fights, at least on paper, in influencer boxing history. This can go so many ways. I could give you an argument for a Slim early knockout of Gib if he catches him with something before Gib gets his feet wet and, you know, where Gib is maybe still vulnerable as he's shown in some previous fights. I can give you an argument for Gib walking Slim down, let me walk that man down, and pressuring him patiently with great technique and not falling into the same mistakes that Salt Poppy did. And by the time we get to the 4th, 5th, 6th round, putting some absolute bombs on Slim and potentially stopping Slim, if not working his way to a dominant decision. But the reality is, we still don't know the full story of these two. One, Slim has not fought in a year. Gib has not fought in a year plus. These two have been out of the ring for a very long time. Ring rust will be a thing, but they also could have learned a lot since then. Who knows what version of each fighter we're going to get? Maybe Gib has developed that power even more than we had seen when he was ragdolling Austin McBroom and stopping him. Maybe he's developed his footwork even more than what we saw versus Jarvis. So the point I'm trying to make is this video is a whole nothing burger of a pick because I am not ready to make a pick yet. We have not even confirmed when the card is going to be. They're saying it's the super card, and I'm assuming that's going to be Qatar because that's what everybody's rumored to be talking about. But when we get this card official, and as we get closer to the fight, we get more footage on both guys, and we get to see what exactly both are bringing, what's changed for either guy. It does feel like that old school feel of influencer boxing where I'm excited, I'm juiced to find little bits and pieces. So stay tuned. For now, I will say with confidence that this is the, on paper, closest, most competitive, I mean inches separating the two, matchup that we have seen in a very long time, if ever, in influencer boxing. This could be the most competitive one. So I'll ask you guys to start off the predictions because I'm not ready to yet. Slim 7-0, 5 knockouts. Gibbs 6-1. We give him grace on the 1 because Jake Paul, in my opinion, would beat up a lot of the guys in this scene. With 3 knockouts, 7 fights in, they have a very similar strength of schedule, very similar strengths and weaknesses. You guys let me know down below. What do you think? Who wins this fight? Where are the advantages? What did I miss? Because I don't have any of those answers just yet. I have a lot of data. We have a lot of things that go off, but what I do know is I cannot wait for this fight. When they make it, when the card is announced, it's go time and influencer boxing's back. What happens? I don't have those answers, but guess we'll find out.